So welcome everybody to our Winter 21 release notes party. So with that, I sure hope you guys are excited about Winter 21. There's a lot of really cool stuff coming out, and we'll touch on some of those things today. As we get started, first of all, as usual, we want to welcome the people that are new here and first time here. So we already chatted to some of you guys, but if you are new here, I think there should be like a raise your hand button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Is there such a thing? Maybe not.
There's reactions.
Yeah, reaction. Can you react on something if it's your first time here?
Who cares?
Awesome.
It'll work.
Thumbs up.
Awesome. So it looks like we have Mayberry, Simon, Cole, and Smariti all here first time.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. It's my first time here.
And Andrew Burnett as well. Nice to have you here, Smariti. I hope I'm saying your name correctly.
Yeah, it's right.
Awesome. Okay. So to those of you who know us, what's going on? Sorry, my slide deck is stuck. Okay, there we go. So we have a guest today. Adam Marks was previously the Richmond user group admin user group leader, and until he abandoned us and left Richmond to Atlanta, and we will forever hold a grudge against him for that. Lacey, who has taken his place, is currently working towards her master's degree and wasn't able to make it any day this in this time period. So we decided to do this one without her, but we invited Mr. Adam Marks to participate and help us run that part. And then John, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm John Daniel. I am, God, what am I doing? I'm now working for, it's been a long day. I'm now working for a company called Steampunk, and I serve as the senior director there. I am the opposite of Adam Marks. Adam and I started this group many years ago, and he's been always the declarative developer, and I've always been the programmatic developer. So I'm the guy who will always code Apex just to do anything simple. So welcome everybody.
Stop shaking your Oreos packaging. It's very loud.
It is very loud. You know.
Adam, you want to say a couple of words?
I feel like you introduced me well enough. But yeah, Adam Marks. So I work with OHAD, unfortunately. And as John mentioned, we started the Richmond user group. Gosh, it feels like forever ago. You know, it's honestly exciting to be back here. So I miss Richmond. Obviously, there's not going to be any travel probably anytime soon. But one day, I hope to get back and be there for another in-person meeting.
Awesome. We'd love to have you. And I'm Ohad. I moved to Richmond about 3 years now almost. And yeah, that's crazy. Joined Adam and John at the time, and now co-lead the developer user group with John, and started Praxis, where Adam now joined me with Salesforce consulting organization, just like Steampunk, but we're better. And and that's it. So let's look at what we're going to talk about today. We'll talk a little bit about some declarative stuff. We'll talk about some code stuff. Winter 21, to those of you who are aware, is already in your sandboxes, likely, and is coming to your production orgs in the next couple of weeks. So let's start by just asking who here has had the pleasure of playing with the Winter 21 environment. And again, use your reactions and do like, or just if you can wave, do whatever you want. Okay, so it looks like at least some of you guys have had the opportunity to play with Winter 21. And if you're a declarative, you know, power user admin developer, or if you're a full coding developer, I think that both the Summer 20 and the Winter 21 releases have a lot of really great stuff that Salesforce has delivered. And we're excited to show you some of what's coming up in Winter 21. So, without further ado, anything Adam or John you want to add before we jump into the declarative stuff?
No, let's do it.
Okay.
All
Adam,
right.
stage is yours.
Yes. So we're going to start by talking about a topic that's near and dear to my heart, which is flows. So flows have been getting continual enhancements for several releases now. This release is no exception, and I feel like we've got some really solid updates to flows. And we're just going to highlight a couple of the things to be aware of, but there's definitely other items that you should check the release notes for. So we're going to talk about triggering a flow before a delete, the auto layouts. So let's start with the before delete.
Sorry, I jumped a little fast.
No, it's all good. We'll just start here. So for anyone that's either done development or has looked into Salesforce, you know that there's a concept of a context in terms of a DML, a record insert or update. So you have before or after, and you have insert, update, or delete. And so Flow, previously to this release, could do before and after inserts and updates, but nothing as it pertains to delete. So now we can actually trigger a flow before a delete. This is a very long-awaited change, and that basically just leaves one context that flows cannot run in, which is the after delete, and mayhaps that will come in the future.
There's one more. There's the before undelete.
Yes, before undelete too. So what's really, there's a ton of use cases for this, right? But the one that jumps out at me initially is something that I'm going to refer to as deep deletion. So an example would be if you try to delete an account and it's got closed won opportunities or open cases, it won't let you do it. So should you have a need to actually go ahead and delete that account without necessarily processing those other records or making other updates to those, you could create a flow that before the delete goes out, looks to see if there's any open opportunities or closed won opportunities or open cases, whatever it may be, and either deletes them or makes some change to them that would allow the account to delete. Another use case that kind of immediately presented itself was, hey, could I use this to prevent a record from being deleted? The short answer is yes, although the way in which we do that's a little hacky and the user experience is not ideal. So if you still have a need to prevent deletion on a record, my first recommendation would be look at a permission set level to remove the access to delete, or if you need to, you can use code to handle that in a much cleaner fashion. But before delete, I think it's fantastic, and it's, like I said, a long-awaited change.
I guess another question it's worth asking at this point: how many of our audience is I guess the first question, how many of you guys are admins versus developers? And then the second question is, how many of you have worked with Flow? So feel free to use your reactions again. I will say this, Flow historically has been viewed as a very kind of advanced admin that many people were kind of afraid to get into. Typically you would say, I can do most things with process builders or with workflows even, but flows have grown so much in the last 3 or 4 releases that you are, as an admin, you are really making yourself a disservice if you're not already jumping in them. And so if you haven't worked with flows to this point, I strongly, strongly recommend you start getting through it. And there is a learning curve. It's not as intuitive. If you don't have any kind of programming experience, it may not be as intuitive as Process Builder was, but the payback is phenomenal. I mean, you'll be able to build stuff that is tremendously more sophisticated than what you can do with Process Builders, not to talk about, screen flows and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, and we've actually got some good chat going on right now, and it seems like there might be some interest in a flow session or even a series of sessions. So maybe that's something we can take back and see if we can get some content together and get more people to become flownatics. I think that's what we call them, right?
I will add also that may be a safe harbor statement, but you should probably expect to see very few, if any, updates to process builders at this point, as Salesforce is fully investing in flows as the technology for process automation going in the future. And it's not unlikely that there will be at some point a sunset to process builders as well, even though there's no discussions of a date at this point. So just be aware that flows are definitely the way to go, and it's worth your time. There's a lot of chat, which is great. Just kind of reading through that quickly, but everybody seems to be really on board with the messaging we're giving here. So Adam, sorry, keep going.
Yep. So the next one we're going to talk about is auto layout, or as I am affectionately referring to it, the new confetti. I have a love-hate relationship with confetti. And when I say confetti, we all know what I'm talking about, right? The opportunity confetti or the path confetti. So when a path reaches a certain stage, you can present confetti on the screen and it's beautiful. And so the running joke is that they actually took time to develop that. And I wonder what features didn't make it in to do confetti. So auto layout is, I kind of am feeling that a little bit about that now. It's good, right? It's very good. The biggest benefit is that I don't have to spend hours trying to create straight lines and beautiful flows anymore. And anyone who does flows on a regular basis will likely not proudly admit how much time they spend actually making the canvas look good. I think it's just part of the game. But now you don't have to worry about that. So you can do an auto layout, and that's what we have an example of over on the right-hand side. And the flow will basically give you your canvas design and output. It's in beta, and really right now it only applies to very simple or linear flows. I think out of all the flows I tried to convert to the auto layout, I had 1 or 2 that actually could convert. But I hope that they will continue to improve this, because if they can get to a point where any flow can benefit from the auto layout, I will absolutely change my tune and I will wholly embrace it. And again, if you're new to flow, this actually might help you build flows a little bit easier. I do think the UI is a little more intuitive for people that are just starting. So definitely some positives there and something to check out in this next release.
Hey, Adam, can you start with with an auto layout and then switch it to a standard? Okay.
Yep. As of right now, you can toggle back and forth at any point. And if your flow ends up getting too complex, like if you add,
branching logic.
Yeah, a bunch of decisions or branching logic, it'll basically say, hey, I can't do this, and it'll flip you back over to the regular canvas.
Oh, wait a minute. So the whole thought behind this is that you don't have to
organize
all of the lines and the things.
Correct.
So,
yeah.
Okay.
So the idea that this was delivered on was people were asking for snap to grid functionality to basically say the lines will snap for you anyway, and this is what they came up with instead of doing snap to grid.
Okay. Yeah, no, I would love to see what happens with some of these, monster spaghetti flows. But
yep. All right. I love this one. So debugging flow is a specific user. So the first thing I'll mention is this is a setting. You have to go into your process automation settings and turn this on. So make a note to yourself, the day your production environment goes live with Winter 21, just hop into your process automation settings and check the box to allow you to debug flow as a specific user. So as we can see here,
Adam, wasn't this feature only possible in a sandbox?
I didn't think so.
I may be mixing it with something else. I'll check out in the background.
Okay, yeah, if it is only available in the sandbox, then that's unfortunate. In any event, this setting basically allows you to run a flow as a specific user. So if you've ever tried to test flows, and I used an example using a community site guest user, you know that you basically have to activate the flow, log in as a user, try to do whatever it is, and hope you don't get an error message. And now you can run this, again, once you turn on the feature, and it will let you select the user and then debug as the user. And this actually goes hand in hand. I don't think we have a slide for it. They now have a new feature where you can actually debug on the canvas, and it will basically trace the path your flow goes through and show you everything in context of how it's actually walking through the canvas. And so it's pretty cool. Definitely something to check out there too. You're muted, Ohad.
Thank you. It does actually say specifically in a sandbox.
Okay. So I guess
the idea is when you develop your flows, you can test them as multiple users, not so much to debug in the sense of something that doesn't go right in production.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. All right. Quickly see the triggers of your flows. So this is, I think, important too, especially as we add all those additional context into flow. So previous to this release, if you were looking at your flow setup page, you could see your flow label, you could see process type, but you didn't necessarily know how it was triggered. So now you can add a column to that page in Winter 21, which is trigger, and it will show you again what the triggering mechanism is for that flow. It does show you only, at least so far, trigger context for flows. So if you're calling it from a process builder, it won't show you the process as an example, but it will show you, is it a record before save? Is it after save? Is it a schedule? And so that can just kind of help you sort and quickly at a glance understand what the flow is and how it's triggered.
And I think maybe just worth mentioning, I think many of the people on this call are proficient in flow, so I'll just mention it briefly. To those of you who aren't very proficient in flows, until 2 releases ago, before the summer release, you could only ever execute a flow from a record change from a process builder, right? Or from code. So you'd need to have a process builder that says, let's say, before update, before or after create. Sorry, after update or after create. And you would say, then call this flow. With summer release, they made it so that flows you can actually execute directly from a record change, just like a process builder. And so that happened last release. They introduced the before save and after, before insert, after insert, before save and after save, they call it. And now with this release, as we mentioned, is the before delete. But this is basically why this is so important, because before it would never be triggered from a record change. Now it makes it a lot easier to find, because now you end up with this massive list of flows potentially, and you can start to filter those list views. Okay.
All right.
Before we go to the next one, any questions or comments by anybody on this call? Feel free to unmute yourself and chat. This is hopefully a little bit more collaborative and less presentational.
No, I mean, I'm getting to the point where I'm finding it harder and harder to avoid flows. Let us save that. So for those who know, I mean, I'm choking on my words right now, but still.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, even as a developer, sometimes you can accomplish things very quickly with flow.
Yeah, and you can prototype some stuff quickly, yeah. But there's a lot of juice now into that product.
I can say that as consultants, flow has really only entered our vocabulary as a really like solution we actually consider delivering on customer solutions in the next year, in the last year or so, right? Basically, it's around the time they really started to invest in it again with the release of the non-flash version and all that, right? But now it's really becoming a solution that hard to ignore. It's really hard to ignore. You can do a lot and you can do it quickly, right? So, okay. Anything, if nobody has anything to say, we'll continue. But the floor really is open to any questions, or if you have anything to add, experience, thoughts, something that we didn't mention, feel free to unmute yourself and contribute to the conversation. Okay.
All right.
Minimum for those who are showing their screen, you can at least smile. That'll be fine. I mean, really.
Cole has been smiling. I've noticed Cole smiling, and even Simon a little bit.
Deepak is always smiling. I've never seen him not smile. Look at that. Look at that. All right. So this one is more of a, really it's a labeling change, but it's a very important feature that I don't want to understate. So previously references to two-factor authentication, 2FA, is now referred to as multi-factor authentication, which is the industry standard. So to that point, Salesforce now has in the setup menu a multi-factor authentication assistant. And basically, if you are not currently using MFA in your organization, now is the time to roll it out. If you're a consultant, now is the time to create plans with your customers to have it rolled out. I'm going to say a safe harbor statement, and I can't really answer any questions. There could possibly be a time in the future where MFA is required, and you might as well get ahead of it right now. So set it up.
Is there anybody who is not familiar with 2FA, MFA?
Yeah, do we all know what 2FA is, or MFA? Does anyone not know?
Have you ever logged into your Salesforce org and it says, hey, wait a second, I'm going to send you an email? with a verification code, that is a form of MFA. Basically, it's just a second it's a second temporary string or password or number or whatever it is, depending on the way you've got it set up. So it becomes a second form of authentication. So
correct. So the way we kind of describe it is it's something you know and something you have. So for example, you know your Salesforce password and you have your mobile device with you.
right.
And so we have different levels of security. So the one John mentioned would be kind of a lower level assurance where, you know, it sends through email. Email is still susceptible. Everything's susceptible, right? But if you have an authenticator app on your phone, like Google Authenticator or the Salesforce Authenticator, it'll actually generate a code that you have to put in. John's showing us right there. So that's your high assurance multi-factor authentication. And again, the easiest way to think of it is something you know plus something you have. So this is going to become really critical, especially as security becomes more and more important. So definitely start to create a plan to roll this out to your users. This release, make it a plan to do it this release. It's definitely important.
Hey, Adam, I have a question.
Sure.
So any thoughts about how this will interact with a single sign-on identity provider?
So your single sign-on, so for example, if you used Google and Google was your IDP, you would want to enable multi-factor authentication on Google's side.
Yeah.
Because at that point, it becomes your login.
Okay.
And so you would have your Google Authenticator and just have it run through G Suite.
And so we're doing that we use Azure.
Okay.
So there's probably nothing I need to do then since it's already enabled, or is there a setting I'll need to put in Salesforce?
No, because this is only important where you're using Salesforce as the identity provider.
Got it. Okay.
When you
Thank
use
you.
Azure or somebody else, then let them worry about it.
Correct.
But,
Yep. 100%.
And just to be candid, I mean, Azure has their own form of MFA, right? But basically then you move the onus of managing that, you know, high assurance session to your single sign-on provider, basically.
Right.
Whether it's Azure, Google, Okta, or one of the many other, you know, single sign-on solutions out there.
Correct. And what Ohad said is really key. It's going to need to be a high assurance type of multi-factor authentication. So email, unfortunately, won't be an option. You will have to figure out what type of authenticator tool I will use going forward. Salesforce offers one. It's great. Or you can use, you know, Google Authenticator or whatever else.
Google Authenticator.
Yep. Perfect. Okay.
Awesome. Sorry, guys.
All right.
Okay,
Ohad, you
so
want to
yeah,
talk
that's
about
mine. So dynamic forms have been delivered as a public beta, as a publicly available beta in summer 20. Does anybody here know what dynamic forms are? Other than you, Adam and John.
I don't.
Okay, so dynamic forms, thank you, Carrie. Awesome. Looks like Jake is familiar as well. So dynamic forms are actually a really big game changer. Until summer 20, whenever you create a Lightning app, right, on the Lightning page, sorry, for a record, you always can put all your components. You can organize however you want everything in tabs, which is phenomenal. However, all the details about the records are always in this one big, massive details section, right? Which is really your page layout, right? Taken directly from the page layout. With dynamic forms, they basically broke that off. There's no more need to have one big detail section. Every single field can now be its own Lightning component that you can put wherever you want on the page. So you can now start hiding some parts of a record in a tab and other parts of a record in another tab in the same page. And the beautiful thing is that because it's a Lightning component, it has other features like conditional visibility, right? You can have a field that is hidden on an opportunity until its stage reaches a certain stage, right? Or one that disappears once it's closed, and so on, right? So now you can organize your pages a lot more. You have so much more flexibility in organizing your Lightning pages. And I can tell you that starting in summer 20, I took it right away, and we've delivered some really compelling solutions to our customers with pages that were really, really busy and now are just so well organized and just easy to navigate. And they put the information that's important at that time front and center to the customer, right? So you can control kind of based on visibility how things appear. So that was introduced in summer 20. However, in winter 20, first of all, dynamic forms are out of beta. So that means anybody can use it, even before anybody could use it. John, can you mute yourself? I think you're making a bunch of noise.
No.
Thank you. No, somebody else. If you're not talking, please just mute yourself. Thank you. So in any case, out of beta, which means it's just much more of a robust solution. And in summer, dynamic forms only worked in desktop and not in mobile at all. With winter, they're actually making now mobile a beta version. So now your dynamic forms can work in mobile as well, which is phenomenal. In addition, there's also dynamic actions. Dynamic actions allow you to do very much the same as with the fields, but now those quick action buttons that you have on the top, that you always have all of them, now you can also control which actions show when. So maybe you only want the send proposal button once the opportunity to show up, once the opportunity has reached the proposal level, right? Stage, sorry. Or maybe you want to have, you know, a submit for approval button only visible until the record is approved. So it's not confusing to users, so it makes a lot more sense. So only once all the data is populated, whatever it is that you need, you now have control over these things. So if you have not explored dynamic forms, highly, highly recommend you take a gander at those and play with them. A lot of fun.
You know, it's actually making me think about something. It's got, I think it was Cole that was saying page layouts thumbs down, and I totally agree. Page layouts were a problem, and again, if you've hung around me last year and a half, you've heard me talk about nothing except two letters and then D and X. And page layouts were always a problem, especially for things when you had lots of packages in your environment, moving to the second package in, because you could never figure out which package that the page layouts had belonged to, especially for things like the common S objects, account, contact, case, because you could have fields coming from multiple different packages and stuff like that. This, if I'm understanding this correctly, then basically we could just set up a dynamic form per package and add the fields that we want for like the contact object, and maybe just.
I'm sorry, somebody here has a lot of noise. Hold on.
Yeah, quickly add, but it's a way to dynamically bring in the fields to the page layout scene from multiple packages, and so that's been a question that I've been trying to solve.
I'm not really sure how that will work in that sense, because you can still have multiple Lightning pages assigned to different profiles, different apps, right? So you have a lot more control over that now. I'm not sure how that would work with packages, but I think there's definitely opportunity to do some investigation.
I was gonna say I'm gonna go look at that. That's gonna be interesting.
The other thing to keep it. Yeah, I mean Cole, absolutely. I agree with that. Page layouts, you know, they're technology from 2003 ish. Yeah. So, you know, it's old. At some point there was a lot of pressure to make improvements to that, but Salesforce decided, of course, Lightning was the way to go. Yes, Cole?
Are you able to get a field from a related record though, or are they powerful enough to look down on one of the lookup fields?
So the related record component already exists for several releases. So that allows you to dynamically select which fields you want to bring from a related record. So that has to be a parent record.
Yeah.
Any record you're looking
at. Combine the two and sort of have the related record and draw from dynamic forms. I mean, I see the same paradigm as permission sets and permission set groups. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Did we just lose OHA?
Yeah, kind of. But I don't know. I mean, the way that it works right now. I'm sorry. What did you say?
Oh, you just froze for a second.
You froze.
Oh, okay. So in any case, yeah, I mean, really exciting stuff. I cannot tell you how much I'm excited about this personally. I will say this. So they are working obviously to detangle page layouts from Lightning altogether. There is still one thing that is dependent on the page layout. So first of all, when you create a dynamic form, it actually allows you to convert a page layout into a dynamic form. So it will automatically bring all the fields in the same order as a page layout into your dynamic form. So that saves you a lot of time if you already have a really busy page layout. But the only thing that still depends on page layout is related lists, because for a related list to show up on a Lightning page, it has to be included in the page layout that is assigned to the user viewing the page. So that is the only thing that's still connected as far as I'm aware, at least. Any other questions, comments? Okay. So Lightning pages can get really busy now. And with custom components, you know, that can be created from the App Exchange, or you can, you know, have developers in your org or create, there's always the opportunity for performance to suffer, right? Whether just a Lightning page that handles a significant amount of data, or maybe it was just poorly written by a developer that isn't experienced. Lightning performance can actually cause, Lightning components can cause significant slowdown to your user experience. Salesforce now introduced this analyze button when you're inside the Lightning app builder, and it will basically check the performance of your components and see if they're good and tell you what you should expect your performance to be. So again, it's just a great feature, especially if you're building complex Lightning pages or using a lot of custom components. This one is tiny, but I can't tell you how many years I've waited for this. When you create a custom report type, you can select which fields you want from the objects that are in the custom report type. If you then create a new field on any of the objects related into this report type, you have to go back to the custom report type and drag that to the layout. It sucks. Carrie agrees, it looks like. With this feature, you have to enable it in the user interface tab, as you can see on the screenshot here. But once you do that, and when you create a new field, it won't do it for a previously created field, but when you create a new field, it will also add it to any custom report type that references these objects. Thank you, Salesforce. Okay, next, Lightning email templates. So Lightning email templates have been introduced, I think, about a year ago, and they've been kind of this in limbo thing. It's not clear when you're supposed to use Classic, when you're supposed to use Lightning. Building a Lightning email template was a little bit iffy. It wasn't very intuitive. And so with Winter 21, they're introducing a brand new email template builder. And the email template builder, as you can see on the screenshot here, looks a lot like the Lightning app, the Lightning page or the Lightning app builder, where you can literally just drag components and use them to build really great looking and rich emails, right? And so Lightning email templates are going to continuously take on more of a more significant role, like everything else Lightning. And so just be aware, start to play with this, and know that future Lightning templates you want to create, you might want to think of using this. There are still some limitations, still some things you can only do with Classic templates and not with Lightning. I think, for example, you can't actually send a Lightning email template from a workflow, from an email alert, from a process builder. There are a couple of workarounds. If you guys are familiar with unofficial Salesforce, unofficial SF website, there's a open source Lightning component that you can bring in to your flows, which allows you to send Lightning emails from a flow. But that is obviously not officially supported by Salesforce yet. So there's options, but you know, expect to see Lightning email templates taking more and more of kind of a center stage as far as email communications from Salesforce. And Adam just shared the link in the chat for unofficial SF. If you have never seen unofficial SF, just make sure you're sitting down, have some nice thing, something to drink, because there's a whole lot of goodness there. There's a whole lot of goodness there as far as Lightning components for flows and a lot of other cool stuff.
And despite the name being unofficial Salesforce, it has been wholly adopted by the Salesforce team. So Alex Edelson, who's one of the product managers for Flow, basically releases the new Flow updates on that site before the release notes are there. They coordinate release readiness through that site. So it's called unofficial Salesforce, but for all things kind of flow and process automation, it is becoming an official communication channel.
Absolutely. It's a great site. I mean, honestly,
really
just
is.
exploring it, you can find some really cool stuff there that can make your life easier and your users' life easier.
Yep.
Okay, I'll accelerate a little bit. So Einstein lead in opportunity scoring. So this was a feature that until recently was paid. It is now free for all. So it's included with your Salesforce license. And beyond just making this feature available to all, they've also made significant improvements on it. So there's ability to now exclude certain records from the opportunity scoring model, or ignore certain fields from the opportunity scoring model. And if you have any kind of organization where opportunities are used, it's absolutely time to start looking at it, right? Don't be afraid of the word, AI, artificial intelligence. Salesforce has really democratized it. They've really made it user-friendly, so you don't need to be, Mark Benioff keeps saying that you don't have to be a data scientist to be able to use AI now. And it's really true, though. You can really build intelligent, artificial intelligence-driven data that can help your salespeople and your sales organization make smarter and more timely decisions. So absolutely recommend. They've also kind of lowered, the models have grown and have become more robust. Before, you needed to have a minimum of 1,000 leads and 120 converted leads in order to use the lead scoring. Now you can do it basically with none. So you can start it with your first lead. Okay. We're getting close to the end of the declarative side. A small but really nice change to see on the opportunities side. So when you look at a list view of opportunities, you can obviously choose the Kanban version, which allows you to kind of see where your opportunities are standing as far as their stage. And you can now, from this screen, even see what has just changed. So for sales managers that are kind of reviewing their pipeline, you can see, as you can see on the screenshot, it shows you right here that the amount increased and that the date has changed from this to that, right? So it's, again, just really kind of bring it up in front to the managers or kind of to people that like to look at things at a high level view to really easily see what has changed in opportunity and in the pipeline. Okay. Case management changes. So there's some changes related to case management. One of the most important one is new behavior around the email to case threading. So if you've ever used email to case, you know that email to case relies heavily on this string called reference ID, the thread ID. And it looks like a ref and then a bunch of digits and letters combined together. And the only way Salesforce would know to match an email, if somebody responds to an email from a case, the only way somebody would know to match that to an existing case is by that. So if somebody deletes it from the subject or from the body, the email would not be matched to your existing case and would create a new case. They're changing that behavior now to be driven based on the subject of the email. And I assume also some connection to who sent it as well. So
yeah, it looks at the header. So it looks at the email header data that comes over and it creates matching based on that now.
Yep. So a lot more robust matching for emails. Even for us using Salesforce cases extensively in our organization, a lot of times we just, end up getting a response from different people getting to create new cases. And it's just a little annoying. I've worked with organizations in the past where it's more than annoying that we have to create custom solutions for matching because the email to case matching just wasn't strong enough. So that's a great thing. There's some improved things related to Service Cloud. So they have some pre-built flows now that you can include for agent interaction, some pre-built macros and pre-built quick texts to kind of make it a little bit easier for people for admins to start applying them for Service Cloud. And then there's also a pilot around integrating Salesforce with Teams, Microsoft Teams. But that's a true pilot. That means if you're interested in learning about it and potentially joining it, you have to reach out to your account executive. He needs to nominate you to join the pilot, and then hopefully you get selected and get to participate in it. So just a few other things that are kind of noteworthy. And again, in case you haven't looked at the release note document is about 400 and something pages. So obviously we're not going through everything. There's probably some other things that may be relevant to you that we haven't covered tonight or will not cover tonight. So kind of getting onto these release notes sessions are great because different groups may highlight different things they find interesting, as well as reading the release notes and at least skimming it, or the table of contents is also a great way to kind of know what's coming. So I'll touch on this very quickly. Lightning Sync, which was a way to sync Microsoft or Gmail data into your Salesforce, has been basically retired for new customers. Existing customers can still use it. New technology called Lightning Activity Capture or Einstein Activity Capture has taken its place, and new customers are now only going to be able to use that. And as noted here, no more development going into Lightning Sync. A really, really important change is Community Cloud has been renamed and is now called Experience Cloud.
Let's see some confetti in the chat for that name change.
Wait, I'm trying to hear all the applause for everybody, but it seems like there's some audio problem because I don't hear anybody applauding. But yeah, Salesforce has decided to rebrand Community Cloud as Experience Cloud, so that is something.
Because they haven't rebranded anything this month.
Yes, exactly. You do need a user permission. You can require a user permission to send custom notification. Omnichannel is seeing some improvements in skill-based routing for chats and messaging. And then Lightning Knowledge can now finally use standard sharing, which is phenomenal.
Honestly, that's pretty big.
Yeah, that is actually really big, because knowledge has been, if you've been in Salesforce, in the Salesforce ecosystem for a long time, you know that when you hear standard object, that means it's anything but standard, right? And so Lightning has suffered from some severe gaps between what we consider standard behavior on custom objects, and they're bringing it up to par now. And then the Optimizer app now has the ability to be scheduled to run and view metrics and history for your security, for your security and for your org optimization. So that's a great way to kind of, routinely be aware of how your org is changing performance or things. I see some people saying no. I don't know if that's to us, but I'd love to hear if you have some thoughts about any of these. By all means, feel free to talk.
Jake and I are bad mouthing product name changes in the world of Salesforce. So
I think it's worth noting too, if you're familiar with the Optimizer app, I think it was 2 releases ago, there was a Salesforce Labs Optimizer app, and then there was a Salesforce Optimizer inside the UI, and those have now merged together. So the Optimizer, if you haven't used it recently, there's actually a lot of good information that you can get out of that. I think it's worth exploring, and then seeing how possibly creating a schedule so that you can get periodic updates on the health of your org. Definitely worth looking into. You don't have to pay for it. It's already available. So if I were you, I would look at it. Yeah, there's no reason not to.
Okay. With that, I'm going to hand the microphone to you for a little bit, John.
You're doing great stuff. Great job.
Okay. Before I jump to John, actually, before I hand the microphone to you, as I always do, any thoughts, any questions, any comments on any of the declarative stuff we reviewed? Okay.
Hey, do you know in Trailhead of the Flow training modules been updated?
I would assume, but I don't actually know.
Yeah, well, I guess I'll find out. Well, I won't know if it's updated, but I'll take a look.
Honestly, it hasn't been updated with a lot of the changes from the past releases. So flows don't reference, trigger-based or even scheduled flows in the Trailhead. It's very much a rudimentary. This is a flow. This is how you build a basic flow that has a loop in it. Super foundational, but absolutely go through it if you haven't done it yet.
Okay, thanks.
But Adam, am I correct in saying that there's a flow developer guide or designer guide or something like that, right, in the Salesforce docs? I mean, the equivalent of the Apex developer guide, that type of thing, right?
There is, yes. I think if you are not a developer and you're kind of going into it fresh, it's probably going to be overwhelming by going into those documents. But yes, there is. There's good documentation around it. But as far as specific trails and modules, at least I haven't seen any updated ones in a little while on Flow.
Right.
But hopefully this next release they'll get some updated ones out.
All right.
Awesome.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay. As usual, we like to say that in Salesforce, the separation between a developer and admin is much more soft than in other environments. And even if you're a developer, it's always good to know admin stuff. And if you're admin, it's good to at least be aware what is available to your developers. So I think, obviously, we spent a lot of time on the declarative. We're going to go to the code stuff. If you're an admin, don't be swayed by that. Don't be, pay attention. Even if you don't get everything, I think there's value in understanding at least very rudimentary what's there. But John, now.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about, job opportunities. I mean, the demand for Apex developers right now is incredible. I'm going to make the shameless plug. If you know of anybody who needs a job, please send them my way, or Harry, since he also works for Steampunk as well. But yeah, I mean, the demand for real developer, or not real, well, yes, real, but anyway. Adam, I love you. Nothing but love for you, Adam. But yeah, demand for qualified Apex developers right now, and Lightning Web developers and JavaScript developers is huge. So yeah. But with that, yeah, there are some interesting, it's an interesting release for the developer side, not to least which the first one we're talking about here is the safe navigation operator. It's these little things that just make the programming language that much easier. For me, this is probably the equivalent of what OHAD highlighted, where the little checkbox and it'll automatically add new fields to the report type. This one is just very simple because if you look at it, we've always
not
had
life-changing, but it's nice.
It's not life-changing, but daggone, it's going to change my life. Absolutely. Yeah. And, but this one is just simply, on the left here in the before sequence, what you have is just that basic little bit of information. So what I had to do before is I would capture that profile URL and, OHAD, is there a way to actually point? Can I actually have a pointer or a draw?
Yes, you can annotate.
Where's the annotate? How do
it should be on your Zoom bar, where you see or share my screen or stop video and all that.
Hey, annotate. Oh, look at that. All right, let's see. So, all right, how do I annotate?
Select the spotlight or the laser. I mean, the spotlight or the draw on it, and then you can.
Oh wow, this is cool.
If you do spotlight, you can do this.
That's kind of. All right, let's try to do this.
We are professionals here.
You are professional developers, and so anyway, let me get all this out of here. Does this work? Oh, this does work. So you can see my error now, right?
No. Oh, I don't know if you guys see it.
I don't see it.
Never mind. So anyway, yeah, there it is. Basically, we had to always check a variable and make sure that it was populated before we could access it before. And so in this example right here, the user.getProfile variable, is that actually populated before I can actually go to the extra method of toExternalForm. And so I would always have to put it in this big if statement and find out what's going on before I could actually make use of it. I had to make sure that each stage of the variable was populated before I did it. This allows me to actually do the statement that I really wanted to do, and that's the example is right here, maybe.
Yep, we see it.
Okay, well, great. There it is, sorry. But this example allows me, and it's just that simple question mark right behind the get profile URL. That simple question mark allows me to say, hey, if the get profile URL comes back empty, don't bother processing anything else in it and just give me the null. Before, what would happen was if that get profile URL was empty and I went to the toExternalForm, it would blow up and the system would stop. So this is just, again,
for a null pointer exception.
It was the null pointer exception. It would throw an exception and my code would basically come to a screeching halt and the time space continuum would break and, and there would be, product owners and business owners coming at me and knocking on my door saying, what the heck? So this is just going to be a whole lot more. It'll help us streamline the code. And again, there's a lot of just little things that are just going to be coming out of this small little change. But next page, please.
Oh, sorry.
Because I'm assuming you're driving, right?
Yep.
So you got to drive. So So this one is, they're showing a little bit of love to the Apex guys because they unfortunately showed some love to the process builder flow and flow guys before they showed it to the Apex. And that was just basically this ability to send custom notifications from the service. And now we have a way to access this functionality, but we can do it programmatically, which is kind of cool because then we can access it through background processes and other things like that we wanted to send a custom notification to. But anyway, basically it's just the introduction of the messaging.custom notification class. Again, you can look up the details in it, either in the release notes or the Apex developer guide. It's got all the information there about how to use it and how to work with it. But again, it's just, gives us the ability to take advantage of some of these things. This next thing I wish I had about a year ago, because I was actually trying to do this very thing. This is basically some love around how we customize the error messages on a group of records. And so programmatically what's happening is I might be doing some custom validations on records, ensuring that some defaults are set or some validation rules, some custom highly complex validation rules are set. And I might come back and say, well, this one field is the problem, but I had no way of actually pinning that information directly to it in a way that I could easily consume and work with. And so they've added a couple of new features or new, not features, methods. And basically this add error methods, for you developers out there, it's actually there's a whole series of add error methods that are overloaded, and we could add custom messages per field and drop all that in. But then there's also the has error messages, which basically say I can take a record and say, does it have any errors? Well, good. If I did, then I'll do some logic this way. And if not, then I'll just go ahead and let it process normally. And if I need to see what those errors are, it's the get errors method, and that returns a whole nother collection about all the very specific information about the error messages. So again, it's these little things that just make my life a little bit easier when I'm coding up and making things happen. So, yeah. Again, if you've heard me talk for the past 2 years, I've said nothing but DX and packaging for this stuff. There's a lot of good packaging.
I heard you talk. I'm trying to stop hearing you talk.
Well, yeah, I know, but you're the one who handed me the mic, so that's your fault. The second generation packages have been working very hard to make feature parity with the original first generation packages that the ISV or platform or partners, not partners, but ISV OEM groups out there had available in the world of Salesforce. And so now we can take the second generation packages and actually schedule the push upgrades, which is great from an administrator side. And, I schedule my release for tonight at 2 a.m. and then it's 6 o'clock and I'm not going to worry about it from now going forward. Again, the ISVs and the App Exchange packages, the App Exchange folks, they've had the ability in the managed package world to understand the progressive hierarchy or ancestors of each release. And so if you're not in the ISV world, you probably don't really care a lot. But again, they made a little change in the Salesforce CLI now allows that an ISV to actually see the entire printout and arrangement of the ancestry line for a package. And so that's going to be good because you can understand which version is actually a parent to or the ancestor child of another version. So that's good when you get in there. The third bullet point right here is about deleting unwanted packages and unwanted package versions. And my God, this is probably the best thing this is the number one thing I'm excited about, because when I started getting into packages and package versions and learning about DX, I created all kinds of mess, and my DevHub org looks very messy right now. A lot of stupid, useless, dead packages, and I want to be able to clean them up and just get rid of them. And for some reason, that hasn't been around until now. So now we'll have the ability to actually delete all of the packages or all of the package versions, which is great. We can just keep the package versions that we're interested in and go from there. Again, if you're in a large-scale environment, multi-org environment, or if you're an ISV, you can tailor, get more specific about the error messages that you get or your subscribers might get when they're installing or uninstalling the package or upgrading it. And you can get all of those centralized and routed to a single email address, basically. So if you're an ISV, again, this is a very helpful tool to make advantage of. The last thing is going to be an interesting change. If you're an early adopter in the world of second generation packaging, one of the cool things that you've been able to get away with is I could build a package and I could deploy that package to production org, and I did not have to have code coverage. I did not have to have 75% code coverage. I remember getting into a discussion with the product team over at Salesforce when this came out, and when I realized this, and I said, guys, you don't want to do this. But they're going to come back now, and as of winter 21, you've got to have 75% code coverage on your package before you can deploy it out to an org, which you should have had from the beginning. You should be doing it from the beginning, but there you go. So yeah, so that's going to be some of those things that are going forward. Ohad, this one's your favorite in the dev world. So.
I've been pushing for that since platform events have been introduced.
Yeah. But basically, no, go for it. Go ahead.
I thought you might want to take a second break, but
I do.
So platform events, if you've heard me talk in the last 2 years, are phenomenal technology that allows you as an admin or as a developer to do some really, really cool stuff. And I've done a Dreamforce talk in last Dreamforce about that. So if you're interested, go find it in YouTube, or I can share the link later. But one of the things that platform event let you do is what we call break context, right? So they don't get executed in the same context as your triggers or process builders or flows, which is great for being able to separate some work to be done after the record is saved. However, one of the limitations of platform events was that you could not use platform events to then make a web service call out. So if you wanted to use platform event to say, oh, when this record changes, let me make a call and update another system, you could not do that directly with platform events. Mm-hmm. Well, now you can. In any platform event that is of the type of behavior published immediately, if you have a platform event that is published after save, you still cannot do public, web services calls. But if it's published immediately, it is now not actually considered a DML for the originating transaction. So until now, if you did a service bus dot publish for platform event, you would then, that is considered as a single DML out of your limit of DMLs in your transaction. Now for events that are published immediately, it does not get counted towards that, but because of that, there's actually a new limit introduced, which is the published immediate DML limit. And I'm sorry, I have a double I here, but you can actually have, I don't remember what that limit is, and I didn't note it here for some reason. But you have a limit of how many immediate DMLs you can publish. Immediate platform events you can publish, but it's completely separate from the DML limits. And because it's not a DML, that's what allows it to then do a web service call out.
Before we go any farther, especially I want people to be aware of, the incredible game-changing aspect that platform events and its sister technology, the change data capture things are. Cole Bradley and I worked together a little while ago, and the org that we were in there is massive. It had probably 70 different production apps, 35, 40 teams active all the time. And you can imagine in that monster size environment, simple things like a case update or an account update, when every application wants their logic in the account or in the case object, all of that logic gets processed when you do the update. So if you're just simply doing a record update, between the process builders and now the flows that are triggering on a record save and all the Apex triggers that are underlying that, that's a lot of logic that has to be executed. And most of it may just get filtered out because it's not the right context, but still all of that logic has to get executed while you're saving the record in there. And that can make for some incredibly slow performance. That's what platform events and change data capture come and really shine, because a lot of that work that is typically being done during that save doesn't need to be done while you're saving the document. if anything, it should be, you really should, an architect especially should be looking at ways to pull this function out and push it out to basically a second process, a second thread, as it were. And what you do is basically from the, when you're saving the thing, just send out a platform event signal and have something listening for it in the background and let it get moving in the background. But it still doesn't interrupt the primary user's saving ability. And while I'm saying this to everybody, because sure, we can process and work with platform events in Apex code, but I think it was just about a year ago now, right? Flows can now be triggered from platform events. And so you can actually take your logic and move it out. So whether you're a hardcore programmer like myself or, you know, a declarative developer like Adam, this is something that you really need to wake up and take a look at. And I cannot.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I would say that when if you're not familiar with platform events, when you first read about it, you may get the sense of, so what?
Yes.
Like, what does it actually do? But get through that. Keep trying to play with it and keep trying, because once you get it, it's like a brand new door has been opened. I call it, you know, your new tool in your Batman utility belt, right? I mean, it's just a phenomenal way to take work that doesn't need to happen together with the save of the record and move it somewhere else where you can now do it quickly, you can do it efficiently and not interrupt the user or make the user's experience a little better. But also it gives you a lot more capabilities. You can break context and you can do some other things. So there's a lot to learn about platform events. We're not going to talk about that here today.
You and I should go actually set up one of the developer sessions in the future about that and pick up where your Dreamforce talk left off and show people what we were able to do at CarMax back in the day, because that was some crazy, crazy stuff.
Absolutely.
You know, think about literally with platform events, we were able to make some processes work, and we had I think we headed up to about 80 different processing threads, all simultaneously going and doing their own little actions. And it was the processing power that we were able to squeeze out of the Salesforce org was unprecedented. We would never do it otherwise. So
Absolutely.
Yeah. So all right, we'll definitely.
Yeah, and there's some Pearl is saying we should have platform events 101.
101?
All right. Well, you know,
and Cole is upvoting, so we should probably do this. We can probably do a revisit of my Dreamforce presentation. I think it's a great 101. And honestly, if you're really interested, go look for it. I'll find the link when John talks about the next one.
Yeah.
But absolutely worth, as an admin, as a developer, if you're not familiar, make yourself familiar. It's definitely, as Adam said just a couple messages ago, it's definitely the future of the platform.
Absolutely. All right, next slide, please.
Okay.
So this one is kind of an interesting thing as well, especially if you've got, who's familiar with the debug log? Let's start with that question now.
I've heard of the debug log.
The debug log is, you know, if you turn on the debug log, it's going to output all this gibberish, and it's going to be a mountain and large amounts of code. And sometimes there are, like I said, when you're dealing with platform events and change data captures, you can actually spawn out other things that are happening. And it's important sometimes to understand what the actual context is. Is the debug log that I'm looking at the one that I was doing, or was this the one that Harry was doing, or is this the one that Jamal was doing? Sorry, excuse me. But you know, so simple things again. They've found a way to allow us to identify the specific request logs that we're interested in. And specifically, there's a way now to set it up so that I can actually get the request ID. So the unique process ID for when I'm actually going into the system and doing something. And in the system logs, it can actually help us correlate all of these system logs across multiple logs, and we can bring them all together, group them, and say, yes, this represents the entire piece of work or track of work that I was doing when I was saving it. Now, this word to the right, I really didn't know this word existed until the release notes came out, but what this is really talking about is it helps us identify where did this piece of work actually come from. So did Harry kick off a record update on the account page from a Lightning UI? Or did Jill go to just the standard UI, standard record page, and kick an update on the contact? You know, did I don't know, did Pearl send some transaction from an external system completely and it came in through an integration API? You know, did Cole have somebody registering what is it, the dynamic, what do they call it? The login discoverable page for basically when you're self-registering on communities. Again, it helped, this basically becomes a footprint about what the type of process was when this was executing. I think there's one on here, the evocable action and a few other things, so you can call it from flows and stuff like that. But basically, again, it helps identify what context am I in when you're trying to sift through these debug logs and understand what's really going on. So again, this is going to be an interesting little change that we can take advantage of and help understand what's going on. So,
awesome.
Any questions? You know, I'm just sort of, you know, rambling now, and if you don't speak up, I'm just going to keep rambling. So keep going. Let's go.
So we're basically done with our release notes. So if you don't know how to get in touch with us, I don't know how you got here, but you can reach us. You can reach us in several ways. Obviously,
it was like that lady that sort of showed up for a minute and then realized she was in the wrong meetup and left.
You can reach us obviously on our Trailblazer group. That's where you can post questions, talk with your friends, and all that. We have our user group YouTube channel where we will post all of these meetups. This one will get posted up there as well, probably by tomorrow. We have our Trailblazer community. This is where you have probably registered to get the notification that this meetup is even happening. So you're probably at least there. And of course, our Twitter handle that you feel free to mention us and ask questions or whatever you want. Before I go to the next slide, I really wanted to kind of open the floor and ask what, you know, if you had anything that was your favorite thing you saw tonight, any thoughts, any kind of, so obviously, you know, there's a bunch of us here. Feel free to unmute yourself and talk, but just be respectful of everybody else.
I'm most excited about those dynamic forms.
I like it, yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
Okay, I mean, you guys obviously are not in talking mood, and that's okay. Let's try and change that with our next meetup. So we'll announce our next meetup soon, but there's a little turn of events here. Next meetup, we're actually going to be handing out swag. We're back to swag. So one of the challenges that we have had with virtual meetings is we can't give you stuff. We like giving you stuff. Salesforce gives us stuff to give you stuff. But it was a little hard for me to reach through the screen. Well, Salesforce is going to make it easier for us soon, and we'll be able to actually mail you swag. So make sure, follow us up. We'll probably have another meetup in about a month or so. And we'd love to see you there. Anything else here? Yeah, I think that's it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you guys
I
for
appreciate
coming.
the presentation.
Yeah, our pleasure. It's a lot of fun for us to do those things. Feel free, if you have any questions, anything you want to say, you want to hang out a couple minutes after, feel free. We're going to be here for a few more minutes.
Yeah, we can just turn this into an AMA.
Yeah,
ask us anything.
Ask us anything except for how to make more money.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
Pleasure as always, Carrie.
I do have one question. So
Sure.
I believe you must have recorded this session or not?
Yes.
So where can I find these session links?
So
The recorded session.
if you go to YouTube and you search for the RVA Salesforce User Group YouTube channel, I mean just RVA Salesforce User Group. So if I go into YouTube, no, not YouTube TV, and we search for the RVA Salesforce User Group, should find our channel. Look at that right here. And this is where you'll find the recording in the next day or two.
Got it. I already subscribed.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you. Absolutely.
Any other questions? I suspect that the people that are still on mute and haven't left yet probably are not in front of the computers even.
Could be. Yeah, floor is yours, everyone. You can ask us about the release notes or anything. John will answer any question.
John, I was kind of wondering, you touched on it earlier, that the demand for Salesforce developers is a lot higher than that for Salesforce admins. Why do you think that is? And kind of as an admin that doesn't love coding, is that kind of the natural next step, or is there kind of more of a project manager role that also has a lot of demand? What are your thoughts on that?
So what I was talking about is, definitely within the Salesforce ecosystem, there are several different roles, if you will. The admin, the declarative developer, the programmatic developer, which is what I'm doing, the architect. Obviously, testing is becoming somewhat of a finely tuned craft and stuff like that in the world of Salesforce. So there's a lot of different job functions out there. The demand right now is, Salesforce's go-to play very much is empowering as many people as possible to quickly produce something, and so that's where the declarative came from. And that's where the config paradigm came from. Now, that's going to be great for a lot of the use cases out there. Maybe the 80-20 rule, but you'll definitely run into, especially in the larger enterprise environments, there's going to be 10 or 20% of the use cases that you need very fine-grained control over it, and you're going to have to get down into the underlying code to get really push that to the limit. Like I said, some of the stuff that Ohad and I were doing about a year ago, you would just never be able to do it with config and WYSIWYG and stuff like that. And so again, when you get to those things, you're going to have to find those skilled developers, and that's why the demand for Salesforce talent across the gamut has just skyrocketed. And it was clear 10 years ago when I made the jump from the world of Java and Oracle and that kind of thing and came to Salesforce. It was clear then, and I have seen it over the past 10 years just spike even beyond that. And so, I mean, it's just there, but it's we're screaming for, in the big high-end complex projects, we're screaming for qualified resources right now. So
is most of the work that like a dev does, is it writing Apex classes and that type of thing, or is it more on the Lightning Web Components side? Or
it depends. Again, it depends on the usage. If for certain, if you can program Apex and program Lightning Web Components, you will never go hungry. I promise you that. There is no two ways about that. Ohad will feed you, I promise you. But I mean, but I know a lot of people out there who are making excellent careers as what I would call declarative developers only, and declarative programming only. And because again, the demand is monstrous, and the tools. You heard me tonight. I'm choking on my words, but Flow's actually got some serious juice and mojo behind it.
Yeah,
that was not the case a couple of years ago, and so it's it's interesting out there. But
and could I take a tangent, kind of along the lines of conversation? So there is such a high demand, and the talent pool. There's a big talent pool, but there's not a big qualified talent pool, right? And so that's an important distinction, number one. But the other thing to keep in mind, this is really about flows. Flows have gotten so powerful, and let's not get a false sense of flow is it's the magic bullet. It's the golden goose. I can do everything I need to do in flow without really understanding the whys and the hows. There's a saying that, if you think it's expensive to hire an expert, imagine how much it costs to hire an amateur or something like that. I probably butchered it, but we all know the phrase. So when you're starting to learn flow, it's important to really get under the hood and understand what's happening. What is the impact when I'm building this automation? Because you can very easily bring a system down with a poorly written flow. Mm-hmm. And you would have no idea otherwise. You could impact performance. It happens all the time. So really take the time to learn. We're going to do a flow session at some point in the future, but ask questions, really strive to get that depth of knowledge, as opposed to just saying, look, I know how to build a flow. I'm going to start doing flow for everything. Mm-hmm. Because it has impacts, and you can just as easily cause, issues as opposed to solving whatever that business challenge is.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, kind of knowing the back end, the order of execution, and what's the lowest head operation kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, from an architect perspective, you're getting into trade-off and costs and cost of ownership. One thing I'm thinking about a lot, especially with larger solutions, is the trade-off between process builder and the time to market, but then the long-term maintenance down the road.
Yeah.
And in some cases, I'm actually advising clients, no, you need to just go ahead, take the hit immediately, go to more of a programmatic solution. And one of the key reasons why is programmatic solutions still have the requirement for 75% code coverage, which basically forces you to put unit tests and really program the counter tests to make sure that your logic hasn't broken when you make a change in a year from now. Again, we've all seen those monster big ball of wax spaghetti flows, and people are very scared to touch it. And I've got one of those right now on a project now, and we've got one developer who's dedicated to that one flow because that's his baby. But one of the things I've got to do right now as an architect is I've got to figure out a way to break that up and get some test coverage around it, because that's mission critical logic now tied into flows. And I've got to figure out a way to make sure that the client doesn't break this in a year and a half from now. Yeah. So, it's trade-offs, and it's understanding, like Adam's saying, what are the real strengths of the platform? When's the right time to use it? And
there's also, I mean, there's some kind of hard and fast rules you can apply as well, right? So beyond the scenario that John described earlier, so I would say this: when you think about should I use flow, should I use code, right? The first question is, can I do what I need to do with flow, right? Because those things that you still cannot do with flow, you'll have to use code. That's the only way to accomplish that, right? That immediately tells you, oh, I can't use flow because it can't do what I needed to do, right? When you do have the option to do it in both ways, typically one of the other really important questions to think about is volume. Yeah. How many records is this flow going to be expected to handle on a daily basis or in a single transaction and so on? Flows are phenomenal. They've become a phenomenal tool, but at bulk, at volume, you cannot beat performance speeds of code. And it's really simple explanation. No matter how good of how much you know code or not, when you take something that is written by code and you try to make it to building blocks, you have to make a lot of assumptions on what people are going to do. And your code has to do a lot more handling for all of these different things that people can do. In code, you can be a lot more specific. Yeah. I know that's exactly what I'm doing. So you're executing your activities in your code a lot more efficiently.
But even when Ohad says, code can handle much more faster and efficiently, the underlying assumption is exactly what Adam said. There are people who can build things, and then there are people who can build things right.
Oh, that's with code and with flow, right?
I mean, but yeah, exactly.
You can build crap code, you can build crap flows.
Yeah, very much.
And the final thing is, if you're an ISV, the other thing you need to think about is flows are not protected from an intellectual property perspective, right? Flows, even packaged, can be viewed by users. Packaged code cannot be viewed by user.
That's interesting. I'm surprised. I wonder if that's a change.
Can be modified. You can't modify packaged flow. You can clone it and modify it, right? But you can view it, you can see it, you can clone and change it.
Yeah, I would be surprised if they go and change that, because again, the entire value prop of flow is to make it easy and transparent.
Right. Well, and I think that gets into just one of the big design shifts when you're designing as an ISV a package, right? You're not going to rely heavily on those declarative solutions. And there's a variety of reasons for that. Consistency is one. Performance is a huge one. As John mentioned, code will always perform better. Salesforce won't allow flow to ever outperform code. But the other thing is,
I don't think it's about allowing. I think it's just from a technical perspective, right? It's really hard to create.
Yeah. Well, I'm quoting Chris Peterson, who basically said if flows ever outperform Apex, the team is going to jump on that immediately and fix it. So
that just means that Apex is inefficient in some way.
Yeah. Chris Peterson is the product manager for Apex at Salesforce.
Yep. But again, if you're thinking about protecting your product, you don't want your business logic exposed.
Yeah.
Right. If I install your package and I can see some of what you're doing, that gives me the opportunity to recreate it. And so again, I think code is still going to be predominantly how we develop packages that will be, distributed on the app exchange or privately. But having flows be able to interact with my code and giving the admin the ability to do more than they could do even a year ago is still huge and very powerful. And, again, once we understand kind of how and why to build flows, we can get things to market even faster. You can turn ideas into tangible things faster. So it all kind of plays together.
It's cool. It's a good discussion on the flow versus code, because I walk that line a lot where it's, you're building a flow so complicated you feel like you could have written the code. So.
Yep.
Cool.
Anything else? Anybody?
I mean, again, Oreos make a great way to,
How many of those did you eat since the meeting started?
So there's 3 columns. I went through 1.5 of the columns. I don't know how many that is.
That's a lot of Oreos, man.
I've got a nice sugar buzz going on right now, to be honest. So it's good.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I had a glass of drink since we started.
You had a glass of drink? Okay, well there you go. Cool.
Yeah, I don't even know if my wife made dinner tonight, so hopefully I can find something to eat.
Indeed.
I'm sure you'll find something. So.
I can
Right,
make
there's no
it.
other questions, then we'll call it a night, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thanks everyone so much.
Thanks everybody.
Have a good night.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye guys.
Bye
Bye.
Pearl. Bye Samriti. Sorry.
That's all right.
Bye
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.